Ferrari arrives in Bahrain with wounded pride, a double disqualification in China, basic technical errors, and a car that doesn't perform as it should. But what if I told you that Maranello has been quietly working on a package that could turn all this around? Today I'm going to tell you why Charles Leclerc could be Ferrari's secret weapon in the Bahraini desert, and how the SF25's new improvements aren't just intended to fix mistakes, but to redesign the destiny of an entire season. Stay until the end because this isn't just a story of speed. It's a story of redemption. Leave me your opinion in the comments. Do you think Ferrari will manage to climb out of the hole this weekend? Or are we facing another year of frustration? Ferrari kicked off the 2025 season with a promise that quickly turned into disappointment. After a 2024 season in which they were just 14 points away from dethroning McLaren in the Constructors' Championship, many thought the SF25 would be the ultimate car to regain lost glory. But the reality was very different. In the first 3 races of the year, Ferrari barely managed to stay within the top 10, suffering from technical failures, strategic errors, and a clear lack of pace that set off alarm bells in Maranello. The Australian Grand Prix was the first blow. Despite arriving with good morale and a car that promised consistency in winter simulations, the results didn't match. Both Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton were forced to fight against a car that didn't respond to them, especially in qualifying, where the degradation of the soft tires became a nightmare. And this was just the beginning. The worst was to come in the Chinese Grand Prix, a race that seemed to be the turning point after an encouraging sprint victory. But Sunday brought one of the biggest technical scandals in the team's recent history. Both drivers were disqualified, Leclerc for failing to meet the minimum car weight after changing his front wing, and Hamilton for excessive wear on the car's skid plate, revealing a serious problem with miscalibrated ride height. What was most alarming was not just the penalty, but the way Ferrari accepted the error without discussion. They knew they had failed at the basics. In Japan, Ferrari tried to get back on track. Although the pace improved slightly, the SF25 remained an unstable machine, especially in the traction sectors. A GPS analysis of Leclerc's fastest lap compared to Verstappen's pole position revealed the truth. The Ferrari was losing alarmingly time exiting slow corners, such as the hairpin and the Casio triangle chicane. The car suffered from persistent understeer, preventing the drivers from pushing to the limit, and worst of all, the rear end showed critical instability that compromised traction, a vital factor in the ground effect era. These shortcomings not only frustrated the drivers but also reflected a lack of clear direction within the technical team. Technical director Loic Serra had to rush back to Maranello after Australia to thoroughly analyze the causes of this drop in performance. The diagnosis was clear. The car is extremely sensitive to changes in altitude, suggesting poor suspension management and a failed correlation between wind tunnel data, simulation, and the actual track. All of this has led to an atmosphere of increasing pressure in the paddock. The Italian press, never lenient with Ferrari, has begun to speak of a technical identity crisis. Fans who started the season excited by Hamilton's arrival and Leclerc's leadership are now wondering if 2025 will be another year of the same: frustration, avoidable mistakes, and missed opportunities. Meanwhile, McLaren and Red Bull continue to push forward. With Lando Norris leading the Woking team's attack and Max Verstappen keeping the pressure on with his championship-winning consistency, Ferrari can't afford to continue losing ground. Because in Formula One, when you blink, you're already off the podium. Ferrari arrives in Bahrain with its pride wounded, but with a clear plan. After the disaster in China, the team didn't just need to explain itself. It needed to react. And that reaction has come in the form of a package of updates that, while not revolutionary in scale, is certainly revolutionary in intent. The SF25 will receive a new floor, completely redesigned to improve aerodynamic efficiency and stabilize the car in areas where it has so far shown chronic fragility. This new floor is much more than a simple technical change. It represents a change of approach at Maranello. It's not just about correcting errors, but about maximizing the few things that were already working well and establishing a solid foundation on which to evolve. The key lies in what Ferrari has called a progressive development plan, which will begin this weekend and extend to Miami, where another, more aggressive package of improvements will be introduced. What's interesting is how it got here. After the Australian Grand Prix, Loic Serra immediately returned to Maranello. It wasn't a formal visit. It was an emergency call. More than 20 different aerodynamic variants were tested in the simulator, seeking a balance that would allow the SF25 to maintain a stable ride height without compromising downforce. What they found was a foundation on which to work incrementally, rather than resorting to a total reinvention mid-season. something that has proven costly in previous years. The most significant change in this package is precisely the floor, which seeks to improve airflow to the underbody of the car, a critical area under the current ground effect rules. By optimizing this flow, Ferrari hopes to achieve not only more downforce, but also a reduction in the car's sensitivity to road irregularities. This is crucial on a circuit like Bahrain, where slow corners demand maximum traction and any loss of grip translates into valuable seconds. But that's not all. This weekend will also see the testing of a subtle revision to the side cooling channels and the profile of the side pods, designed to improve thermal efficiency without sacrificing downforce. These are details that aren't readily apparent, but can make a difference in a championship as tight as this one. Ferrari, aware that it has already wasted too many opportunities, is opting for surgical precision rather than a rushed redesign. And amid all this, Charles Leclerc has remained optimistic, albeit cautious. He has stated that these updates are very important and that he hopes they will yield results right away. His words reflect a mixture of urgency and hope. He knows that the window to fight for the championship won't be open for long, and that if Ferrari doesn't respond now, it will be too late for any comeback. The pressure is on all fronts: on the engineers, who must show they've learned from the mistakes of the first races, on the drivers, who will have to adapt their style to a constantly evolving car, and on the team's own management, which is being closely watched by the media, fans, and even rivals. Bahrain won't just be a test of speed, it will be a test of character. Ferrari doesn't just need to score points, it needs to regain credibility. It needs to show it can learn, adapt, and compete at the level of the best. Because if this package doesn't work, if the car remains unstable and slow, the 2025 season could be doomed before it even reaches Europe. Amid the stormy start to the season for Ferrari, Charles Leclerc is emerging as much more than just a frontline driver. In Bahrain, his role goes far beyond sitting in the cockpit and hitting the gas. Leclerc is set to be the emotional, technical, and competitive linchpin of Ferrari's rebirth. And he knows it. Charles has demonstrated admirable resilience in the face of chaos. After his disqualification in China, far from falling into the game of excuses, he maintained an attitude of responsibility and focus. Internally, it has been reported that he spent hours working with the engineers, reviewing telemetry data, seeking to understand every detail that could make a difference. His comparative analysis with Verstappen's pole position in Japan revealed exactly where the Ferrari was failing: loss of traction on corner exit, rear-end instability under heavy braking, and understeer that forced him to constantly correct the line. But far from being discouraged, Leclerc has used this data as fuel to demand more, both from the machine and from himself. In a season in which Ferrari has been a victim of its own mistakes, Leclerc has been the figure of consistency. While the environment erupts with management errors, setup failures, and media criticism, he has maintained a steady line, knowing that his experience and maturity are key to keeping a team together that could easily fragment under pressure. He hasn't been swayed by the noise and has focused his public discourse on a single direction: evolution. He speaks of progress, potential, and solutions. He never blames anyone. And it's not just about his technical ability or his detailed race analysis. Leclerc is, right now, the visible face of the Tifosi's hopes. At Maranello, they know there's more to his hands than talent. There's leadership. He's one of the few drivers on the grid who combines pure speed with a total sense of belonging to the team. Charles doesn't race just to win. He races to restore Ferrari's identity. And that makes him an invaluable emotional asset. Furthermore, his driving style fits perfectly with the philosophy of this SF25, at least in theory. Leclerc is a driver who shines when the car allows him to brake late, throw the car towards the apex, and rely on an instantly responsive rear end. What he needs is stability under braking, a predictable front end, and downforce that doesn't dissipate when the car lowers. Exactly what Ferrari aims to improve with the updates arriving in Bahrain. If the new floor and aerodynamic tweaks work, Leclerc will be able to exploit that aggressive yet calculated style that made him one of the most feared in qualifying during his prime. This weekend, Leclerc won't just be looking for points. He'll be looking for signs. Signs that the car is responding. That past mistakes have served a purpose. That finally he can once again fight for real victories. Because if the Ferrari shows life in Bahrain, it will be thanks to technical decisions. But above all, thanks to Charles Leclerc's unwavering conviction that Ferrari can still be champion. Ultimately, Leclerc is the Scuderia's emotional thermometer. When he's strong, all of Ferrari is. And that makes this Grand Prix a defining moment, not just for qualifying, but for the very soul of a team desperately seeking to remember what it feels like to win. We've been through a complex narrative, fraught with tension, expectation, and potential redemption. Ferrari isn't simply facing a performance crisis, it's facing an identity crisis. The start to the 2025 season has undoubtedly been one of the most turbulent in its recent history. With unthinkable technical errors for a team of its caliber, a double disqualification that exposed structural and planning flaws, and a growing gap to McLaren and Red Bull, the outlook seemed bleak. But Bahrain represents more than just the fourth race on the calendar. It's a chance for redemption, a testing ground for everything Ferrari has tried to fix in the shadows of Maranello. The updates aren't cosmetic, they're the first brick in a bridge that could reconnect the team to real competitiveness. And at the center of that process is Charles Leclerc, not as an isolated star, but as the nucleus around which the new attempt at resurgence revolves. The key isn't just for Ferrari to achieve a good result this weekend. It's how they achieve it. If the car shows tangible progress, if the aerodynamic corrections work, if the ride height issues are under control, and if the drivers can squeeze the SF25 without suffering through every slow corner, then it's a clear sign that there's still time to make up for lost ground. And not only that, Ferrari can finally build a different narrative in 2025. One that doesn't speak of wasted potential, but of precise execution, resilience, and rebirth. The story written in Bahrain will be closely watched by the entire grid. Rivals will take note. The media will analyze every second of telemetry. The fans will count every tenth of a second with their hearts in their throats. Because for Ferrari, this Grand Prix isn't just a race, it's a statement of intent. And if you too want to closely follow every move of this battle that's just beginning, don't miss out. This channel is your place to understand not only what's happening, but why it's happening. If you're interested in seeing how this story continues to develop, subscribe, turn on notifications, and join us for the next chapter of this exciting season. Because in the next video we'll talk about the earthquake-shaking Red Bull, Verstappen's anger, Lawson's fall, Tsunoda's arrival, and what all this could mean for the future of the team that seemed unbeatable. This is just the beginning.